In this presentation, we're going to talk about a system for chlorinating and filtering water for home use. Water in the home, potable water, is one of the most important determinants of community health. After we go through our system, I would like you to watch a video that is included in the presentation that is from a company that does a ceramic water filter. There are many ways to purify water. We're offering a look at what we've been promoting, which uses the Sawyer filter. There are two filters, the one that does bacteria, parasites, giardia, schistosomiasis, etc. And there's also a more expensive one that filters out virus. The Sawyer company has been doing a very good job of promoting these internationally, and international nonprofits can be in touch with them and get a better price than is on the open market. So we'll go through our presentation and share our perspective on home water purification. Our option that we're promoting is the filtration and chlorination. One of the communities that is an example of why this is necessary is a beautiful community that we visited. People are eager to improve their lives. This is a group of women who are bankers. They've been doing small banking and then promoting activities in their own home and in the community. They want a dispensary. The community has already put the foundation in for a dispensary years ago, but they haven't been able to get one. They're very remote from healthcare, and they want clean water. This is the pool that the community is drawing their water from. The water in the pool runs through this area of mud. This is the spring that feeds the village water. We gave a presentation of this system to the people of the community, showed them how to construct and use a home water purification system, and there's a lot of interest. This is the PowerPoint that we have made to explain how to construct the system. This is what you need. You can look at the list, but basically you're taking two 5-gallon buckets, food grade, with lids, and the other things that are on the list here. And we have some turtles helping us explain how this works. These are the things that you need. You need some spade bits, you need beverage bottles, you need the hose bibs, the buckets, plastic stirring, and you need the Sawyer packet, the kit that comes with their filter in it. We'll start by drilling a hole in the bucket, and believe it or not, this is the hardest thing to do. Use the spade bits. The one that comes with the Sawyer kit is 13/16. The one that we use for the half-inch hose bib is 7/8 of an inch. But after you've made the hole either with the spade bit by hand or with a crank spade bit driller, or with a power drill, however you make it, ratcheting screwdriver is another option. When you're done making your hole, you'll have a hole with a lot of burrs around it. Making the hole is the easy part. Getting rid of the burrs is really important. It takes about 10 minutes. You have to either use the spade bit that you had to make the hole, or some piece of sandpaper, or some way that you carefully remove those burrs. If you don't, your bucket will leak. So the perfect hole is tedious, but it's extremely important. So like the turtles, slow and steady wins the race. So you're going to take your hose bib, wrap it in plumber's tape, then put the washer on, and the hose bib has to be flat. A beveled one will leak. Then the washer has to be snug up against the hose bib and the tape on the side. Then on the inside of the bucket, this is a view from the inside of the bucket where you've screwed the adapter on with another washer on the inside. Now your outside of your bucket looks like the picture on the right. That's for the bottom bucket. That's the bucket that you're taking the clean water out of. And then you put a hole in the lid and you put a beverage bottle upside down on the lid. And on the top lid, you do the similar kind of a thing. We're recommending that you use a 2-liter bottle for both the top and the bottom. Uh, this is the top bucket. This is a bucket into which you're putting untreated water to be filtered by the Sawyer filter. And the way you put this bucket together, the instructions are very clear in the packet that you get from Sawyer. Now, here's another important consideration. When you're doing the filtering, you should fill the top bucket all the way up and then filter it in one operation into the bottom bucket. The reason for doing that, first of all, when the top bucket water is settling, that's an important part of the process. You don't want to keep disturbing it by pouring new water in and churning it up again. We actually recommend, if you have space, to fill a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, with water a little bit at a time or all at once. Let that settle and then pour that into the bucket that you're going to filter. If you have time, it's great for the water to sit for 24 hours before you filter it. One of the reasons for letting water sit also with the schistosomiasis problem is that the schistosomiasis will not survive more than 24 hours, maximum 48, in still water without a source of nutrition. So if we're dealing with in a place with severe schistosomiasis, waterborne parasites, it is good to let the water sit just for that reason before using it for anything in the home, bathing, dishes, anything that people's skin is going to be in touch with the water. So letting your water sit is important. Uh, but even if you don't have time to let it sit, the filter is going to filter out the um, contaminants that are things like the parasites, the bacteria, debris, anything that is making the water cloudy. It will not filter out heavy metals and sometimes stains in the water from metals. Um, so you have your untreated water high on a table. You're using gravity to run the water through the filter. The filter that is purifying the water, and that is the bottom bucket. You keep the lid on the bottom bucket at all times, and like I said, instead of the white small pill bottle size, we've recommended now to go to a 2-liter bottle. How do you keep your filter clean? You backwash it periodically. Anytime it slows down, for sure you're going to need to backwash it. Backwash it with the syringe that they give you. If you lose that, you can get other syringes that are similar to that, or you can use the adapter that comes with the kit, and you can backwash it with a soda bottle or a beverage bottle. Now, we tell people do not put chlorine into the top bucket, into the untreated water. When the chlorine mixes with organic matter, you can create organochlorine compounds that are toxic, some of them carcinogenic. So it really is not good to put chlorine in untreated water. Unfiltered water. Better to filter it and then chlorinate it. Now, when you're teaching this, you can use test strips to check for total chlorine and free chlorine. You're not going to be doing that on a regular basis in a household use, but to show people what it takes to get the water chlorinated, between the sniff test of being able to smell a faint amount of chlorine in the water and the strips, you can pretty well show people what it takes to purify the water. The WHO standards for chlorination are 0.2 milligram per liter minimum chlorine and 5 milligram maximum. You don't want to taste it, but you should at least be able to smell it to know that there's leftover free chlorine after the chlorine has neutralized the bacteria. You want to have 1 to 2 parts of free chlorine minimum left before chlorine left in the bucket after 30 minutes, and that the chlorine has neutralized the contaminants, the viruses, or any other contaminants that might have gotten through the filter. 1 cc of sodium hypochlorite, which is a household bleach, usually 5.25%, creates a solution of about around 3 parts per million free chlorine in a 5-gallon bucket. So 1 cc of 5.25 should be enough for a 1-gallon bucket. Sometimes you will run into Clorox or chlorine bleach, household bleach, that is a stronger concentration, up around 8, and in some cases they'll be selling it at a lower concentration, 3.75 or thereabouts. And so you have to keep that in mind when you decide how much to use. The other thing is, if the chlorine, the sodium hypochlorite, has been sitting for a long time, it does lose potency, and in that case, if it's not fresh, you may need more. So, now let's go through the process. You should store it in a pill bottle. It's hard to get it out of the chlorine bottle. So pour it from, if you're buying a bottle of Clorox or household bleach, pour it into little pill bottles. Keep the bleach up out of reach of children, and also keep the little pill bottles out of reach of children. But that's the easy way to get the bleach out of the bottle. So it should be stored out of reach of children always. And do not use perfumed bleach. Nobody wants to taste of perfume in their water. Always label the bottle. It has to be clearly labeled for what it is, so people don't accidentally drink it or get it in their eyes. Clorox sodium hypochlorite is not something that you want on your skin. You don't want it in your eyes. So keep it out of reach of children. And there's instructions on our labels to rinse. If you get it on your skin, in your eyes, flush it all away, rinse off quickly, and use the bottle that we're showing. Now, it's important to have a stir stick or an agitator in the bottom bucket. You can use a 1/2-inch plastic rod. You can put a large serving plastic spoon through a slit in the top of the bucket. You can use different ways you can come up with different ways of agitating, but it's important to agitate, because if you put the chlorine in the bucket and you don't move the water at all, it can stay in a cloud for a long time and does not really disperse throughout the 5 gallons. You have 30 minutes that you want the chlorine solution mixed in with the water to sit before you drink it, because that's the time it could take to neutralize the viruses that could be in the water. So, and by the way, when you're filtering the water into the bucket, you must start with a clean bucket, clean agitator. Don't ever put anything into the bucket that hasn't been sterilized or sanitized. You don't want to put your hands in, you don't want to put cups in, you don't want to take the stir stick in and out, or the stirring spoon in and out. They should be permanently attached to the lid and never come in and out. And the other thing that is extremely important, whenever you have a 5-gallon bucket anywhere, you should keep a lid on it, because children, toddlers, infants can drown in 5 gallons of water. A baby who is playing in the water could slip in, and they're not heavy enough. They may not be heavy enough to tip the bucket over. So a tragedy can happen if a 5-gallon bucket is left in reach of children without a lid. that they can't get off. So that's what a stirring stick could look like, 24 inches, half-inch diameter. You make a little hole in the top of the bucket, poke the stick through, and now you have an agitator. And this is the kind of a container you should put in your top bucket for holding the stir stick and the flushing syringe, and we're telling you to put this on the top bucket in a 2-liter container so that it is always out of reach of children, and you can also put your Clorox in that bucket as well. Always up high on a table out of reach of children. Using the agitator, you go back and forth 12 times to adequately mix the chlorine. This is what a chlorine test strip reading looks like. You can buy these from the Hatch company, by the way. Total chlorine in parts per million and free chlorine in parts per million, and that's what you're comparing to when you want to see if you're well enough chlorinated. If you don't have access to sodium hypochlorite, household bleach, you can use calcium hypochlorite, which either sodium hypochlorite or calcium hypochlorite are what is used all over the world in water purification systems. City water with the chlorine to prevent contamination of the water is using calcium hypochlorite or sodium hypochlorite. You can get calcium hypochlorite as shock treatment for a swimming pool. So what you'll need if you're going to make your own chlorine solution is a 2-liter bottle, scissors to cut the bag open. You're going to use the adapter from your Sawyer kit and a 1 teaspoon measuring scoop equivalent to 5 cc's, 5 cc's exactly. You'll take your 2-liter bottle, put the adapter on, find a beverage bottle, a water bottle that has the same threading as the adapter. Cut the beverage bottle, the water bottle, in half so that you now have a funnel. Take a cc, a complete flat cc, 5 cc, I meant to say, 5 cc of the sodium or the calcium hypochlorite, and put that into the bottom of the beverage bottle through the little funnel that you've made. This amount that we're telling you to put in is if you have 56.44% calcium hypochlorite. If you're using a higher strength pool shock powder, then adjust your amount that you put in proportionately. Now you'll have your calcium hypochlorite in the bottom of the 2-liter bottle. You'll fill it up with pure, clean, filtered water. Shake it thoroughly until the granules have completely disintegrated. And that can take a few minutes. Now, every time then that you pour that out into your little pill bottle, you shake it up ahead of time. And every time you take the 1 cc out to purify your 5-gallon of filtered water, then you also shake it up because the particulate matter can drift down to the bottom. So you're going to use a 100 or 120 cc pill bottle, and that is really important to be able to get the proper amount of calcium hypochlorite out of the bottle. Now, how do you know that you have enough? You can use the strips or you can use the sniff test, and you want to have a faint odor of bleach in your water. If you can't smell anything, you can add a drop or two extra of the calcium hypochlorite, and at the most that you should ever need, the most you should ever need would be 5 cc's. But that would be unusual to need that much unless your solution is old or weak. Wear gloves to handle it, read the warnings on the package, and do the same thing with agitation. Wait, let it sit after it's agitated for 30 minutes, and then you've got clean. Don't put dirty hands or any utensils, cups, into the water. Once you've purified it, you don't want to waste all that hard work that you did. Don't introduce anything into the bottom bucket. Keep the lid on all the time. You should get all your water out of this spout, and now you've got safe drinking water. And you can be in touch with us. It costs about $30. It varies depending on how much you have to pay for the buckets. You've got to get good spigots, and no turtles were harmed in the making of this PowerPoint. Moving on, this is a little diagram of what this should look like, and with the label, the steps all simplified and put in one piece of paper. I would have to say one thing: you're not really going to be pouring your dirty water through the top funnel. You're going to be lifting the lid and pouring it into the top bucket. The top funnel is the cap of the beverage bottle, stays on, screwed on underneath the lid, and that top funnel is just to hold the things you want to keep out of reach of children. Now, there is an interesting test that you can do if you're teaching and promoting in the field the idea of purifying the water. There's the Hatch Company has an interesting procedure for showing that the water is indeed contaminated. They have hydrogen sulfide producing bacteria turns an indicator black, and the bacteria grows in the test solution, which has like a culture medium that you introduce into the water, and the contaminated water will have a very foul smell in a couple of days, and it will turn black. So it's a very interesting field kit test kit, very convincing, and this shows you how to do it. It's called PathoScreen. You can get sterile bottles to use, or you can sterilize your own. And this it tells you how to interpret. And this is what it looks like. Your good clean water will have, after a few days, will look on the left, still be yellow. The one that has bacteria in it, the untreated water, will look like the one on the right. It will be dark. It will smell really bad. It'll smell like rotting meat. And the pillows of the little containers that you dump into the water are pictured on the left. The Hatch Company is an interesting company. They do a lot of work in water purification, but they also have this little test kit for communities that are in need of kind of a convincing that their water needs to be treated. This is a diagram of what a stand could look like adapted to the size of the buckets. So I'll remind you to look at the video that we've called an eye-opening video. It describes the conditions in a specific community, but the conditions are true in many places where people don't have access to pure water. They're sharing their water sources with animals. It's an ongoing cause of disease of many kinds. So look at that to have a better idea of why this kind of a system is so important.